Well, hello everyone. How we doing? Welcome to the first look of March Madness 2024. I usually do about 3 of these a year. This is the first one. I normally start in January, but this year I wanted to do it a little later. Less updates, you know. A very busy man, as we all know. So, first things first, let's switch over the music. That's the intro song. So, what is bracketology? Well, it's basically predicting what the bracket's going to look like come March. What up, Bailey? What up, Merlin? How we doing, everybody? So what does the selection committee use for criteria? That's basically how I make my bracket as well, because we're trying to predict what the committee is going to do. It also gives the teams that may not know they're going to get in some security if they see them called today. It also gives teams that aren't called today, that are on the bubble, a lack of security, so they need to step up the game a little bit. But the criteria has changed ever since 2018. They don't use the RPI anymore. Now they use the net, which is referred to as the NCAA evaluation tool. And that basically has a whole bunch of things involved. It has game results, you know, how many points you beat a team by, I think 12 or more or 12 or less. Strength of schedule, location of the games, was it home, away, or neutral site. Once again, there's a scoring margin, as I mentioned as well. I guess it's not 12. I guess it's above 10 points. Overtime games will be assigned a scoring margin of 1 point, regardless of actual score. Yeah, so many things. The net offensive and defensive efficiency. And there's no bonus or penalty when a game is played within the season. So if you started out really good, you finished bad, they look at the whole season. They don't look at, you know, how you finished or how you started. It's the whole resume. Quality wins, quality losses. This is a big one. You know, now we use a quadrant system that came out in 2018, and they've been using it ever since. So a quad 1 win would be you're at home and you beat a top 30 team. You're at neutral site and you beat a top 50 team, or you're on the road and you beat a top 75 team. This entire row right there. Quad 2, you were at home and you beat a team ranked 31 to 75. There's 360 something teams in D1. So this is a little dated. There aren't 353 anymore. It's grown to like 360, I believe, 362. Moving on with quad 2, 51 to 100 neutral site, and then 76 to 135 on the road. And then it keeps going. Quad 3. And then finally, quad 4. You don't want to see any quad 4 losses on your resume. So that's basically the gist of the criteria. So let's get into it. First things foremost, let's go to the Midwest region with our number 1 overall seed. And that is Purdue as of right now. Purdue is the number 1 seed. They will be playing South Dakota State Jackrabbits versus Eastern Kentucky. What are they, the Governors, the Colonels? I don't remember what their mascot is anymore. But yeah, they play the winner of the play-in game there. So Purdue is barely above UConn right now as the number 1 team. First things Furman. Moving on, Nevada playing FAU. FAU used to be like a 4 seed early in the year. Now they've slipped all the way down to an 8. The Owls need to make a run. They can't keep losing. I do believe if they win their tournament and win out, they could find themselves a 6 seed maybe. But right now they're an 8 out of the American Conference, and then Nevada out of the Mountain West, both at-large teams. Purdue is projected to win the Big Ten, by the way. Moving on, Clemson Tigers out of the ACC and at-large, playing the projected winner of the Ivy League, the Princeton Tigers, one of last year's darlings. They made a deep run into the tournament. They're back, and they got themselves an even better seed. They were a 15 last year. Now they're a 12. So there you go. And they are an auto bid as of right now. Auburn Tigers out of Bama. They are in the SEC, projected at-large team, playing the Akron Zips out of the MAC, the projected winner of that conference. Iowa State out of the Big 12, the Cyclones, projected at-large, facing the Charleston, what are they? Charleston Cougars, projected winner of the CAA. Charleston was dancing last year as well. South Carolina, the Gamecocks, out of the SEC. They are an at-large here. Facing Indiana State, fellow bubble team, but projected first place winner of the Missouri Valley Conference. The Sycamores. They could land themselves on the bubble if they don't win their conference. They might still get in as long as they don't take too many more losses. If they lose one more game the rest of the season and it's in like their tournament championship game, I think they'll get in regardless. Moving on, BYU, the Cougars out of the Big 12. That sounds weird to say because they've always been in the WCC. They're playing the Northwestern Wildcats out of the Big 10. Both these teams projected at-large bids, not currently in first place in their conference. Oakland, the first place team out of the Horizon League. They will be facing Marquette, the Golden Eagles out of the Big East. And Marquette's projected to be a high at-large bid. Well, there it is. There's the Midwest region chat. Anything stand out to you? To me, I see a possible Purdue-Iowa State clash. FAU Purdue would be interesting in the second round as well. Clemson possible upset alert on Princeton here. I think Clemson's a 5 seed no matter who they're playing. I think they're going to be on upset alert. That's just my opinion. I think they're a 5 seed that's kind of vulnerable. And I also see an upset here. Indiana State over South Carolina. But other than that, I don't really see too many first-round upsets. Thought UConn was number 1. They will be next. They're in the East region. And they are the number 1 seed. Right behind Purdue. The margin's very tight right now between these two. If Purdue were to lose 2 games and UConn were to win their next 2 games, UConn would jump them. It's that close. But yeah, UConn Huskies, the number 1 seed in the East region, facing Fairfield, the Stags, out of the MAAC, projected conference winner there. And UConn is the projected conference winner of the Big East, but they're going to get in regardless. And they'll face the winners of the 8-9 matchup between Michigan State Spartans out of the Big 10 and the Mississippi State Bulldogs out of the SEC, both at-large bids. Mississippi State on the bubble right now, but they're doing a little better on the bubble than other schools. Yeah, different region, Bailey, and they are not number 1 right now in bracketology. They're number 2 as far as the overall rankings go. Dayton, the Flyers, projected winner. No, they're not the projected winner. They're in our at-large bid. I forgot Richmond's in first place right now out of the Atlantic 10. Dayton should get in regardless, and I got them as a 5 seed right now. Kind of a low 5 seed, though. I think their ceiling's a 4 seed, but their floor might be a 6 or 7. I got them as a 5 right now. They'll be facing the winner of a play-in bubble game, Drake Bulldogs out of the Missouri Valley Conference versus the Colorado Buffaloes out of the Pac-12. That is your first play-in game. Both bubble teams. You cannot afford to lose anything right now if you're on that 12 or 11 line and you're an at-large. Moving on, App State out of the Sun Belt, projected winner of that conference, facing Baylor, the Bears out of the Big 12. And Baylor's an at-large here in this case. The Alabama Crimson Tide at-large out of the SEC versus Vermont, projected winner of the American East Conference, the Catamounts. That's a scary matchup for anybody. Anytime you see Vermont on the bracket. You start panicking a little bit. Moving on, number 6, Colorado State. The Rams out of the Mountain West, who has 6 teams in the field right now, their record for that conference. Facing the other bubble play-in game, Gonzaga Bulldogs versus Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Those two, among the last 4 in with Drake and Colorado. So they could find themselves out of the field if they were going on a losing streak. That the margin is very slim for those 4 schools. We'll get to bubble later. There's a lot of bubble teams right now. And Colorado State and at large, very comfortable at large, sitting at a 6 seed. They could find themselves all the way up to a 5 probably, or as low as an 8, I would think. Moving on, TCU, the Horned Frogs out of the Big 12, facing the number 10 seed Seton Hall Pirates out of the Big East, another bubble team. Big East has a lot of bubble teams this year. I think I counted 4 bubble teams out of the Big East, maybe 5. I actually think there's 5. So Seton Hall can't afford to slip up as well. Even though they're a 10 seed and in the field here, they could certainly play themselves out. And both these teams currently at large, but that could change. And finally, North Carolina, the Tar Heels out of the ACC, facing the Colgate Toothpaste Company out of the Patriot League. Colgate projected to win that league, and North Carolina projected to win the ACC. Well, there we have it, the East region. Xbox won't connect to internet, gonna try restarting. Oh, weird, Bailey. Yeah, it's going, doing weird things over there, it looks like. Anything stand out, Chad, about the East region here? I think UConn and North Carolina clash is kind of imminent at this point. Bama could crash the party. Dayton, I wouldn't sleep on them. You know, they could make a run, maybe the Elite 8 potentially. Michigan State, a very sneaky 8 seed here. Anytime you see Tom Izzo in the second round, if they were to get by Mississippi State, but second rounds against UConn, I'm sure UConn doesn't want to see Tom Izzo as their second possible matchup here. But don't take anything away from Mississippi State, because Chris Jan's a very good coach as well. He sent New Mexico State to dang near the Sweet 16 2 years ago. They did beat UConn that year that they went to the second round. And App State, a scary 13 seed here. Probably the most dangerous 13 seed in the tournament right now. I would want to see them. They got a beast, like 6'11" post that's very thick, and a bunch of good guards that play great defense and shoot the rock. So I would not want to see App State if I was a 4 seed. They could sneak their way up to a 2 seed as well. If they don't win their league, they might have a chance in that large, but they're going to have to win out for that to happen, because they have 4 bad losses, but they do have that win over Auburn. That's big for them right now. All right, let's move on here to the number 3 overall seed in the South region, the Houston Cougars, the 1 seed of the South region, number 3 overall seed. They are projected winners of the Big 12. And they'll face the winner of a play-in game between 16 seeds Norfolk State, the Spartans, out of the MEAC, versus the Merrimack. I don't know what their mascot is, to be honest. They're a newer and Division I team. I actually don't know what their mascot is. It stumped me on that one. I believe Merrimack's eligible for the postseason this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they are currently in first place in that league, so we got Merrimack up there. I'm pretty sure they're eligible this year. They couldn't play in it last year. All right, moving on. Florida, the Gators out of the SEC, at large, facing at large New Mexico State, the 9 seed out of the Mountain West. Another Mountain West representative here, the Lobos. Moving on, we got Wisconsin, the Badgers out of the Big 10. They're an at-large projection here, facing the current favorite of the Atlantic 10 Conference, the Richmond Spiders. Always a sneaky 12 seed. A couple years ago, they were a 12 seed, knocked off Iowa in a stunner. A lot of people had Iowa going to the Final Four after what they did in the Big Ten tournament. Richmond said, no. Not on our watch, buddy. We're knocking you out in the first round. You're going to have to hold your horses here. And they did. So they are currently sitting pretty as the projected winner of that conference right now. They'd probably be on the bubble if they don't win their conference tournament. They might have a sneaky chance at a at-large, but they're kind of hoping to win their conference tournament right now. Now we got Creighton, the Blue Jays out of the Big East, just came off a big win over number 1 UConn. And they are an at-large right now, facing McNeese State, the 13 seed. The Cowboys out of the Southland Conference, dominating that conference right now. Wouldn't want to face 13-seeded McNeese State. Them and App State as 13s, very dangerous. That just shows you the strength of the NCAA tournament this year. You got two 13 seeds that have a combined dang near 50 wins. I think they're 48-5 or 48-7 or something like that. You love Houston's coach, says Bailey. Yes, Kelvin Sampson. He is a feisty coach. He used to have them suit up in football pads at practice, play some defense with football pads on. He is. If you're not tough and you're a recruit in high school, if you're soft at all mentally or physically, just don't answer the phone. If Kelvin Sampson calls, just don't answer the phone. He won't take you. You're not ready. All right, where are we here? Duke, the Blue Devils out of the ACC, right behind North Carolina in the standings, but projected at large here. They're fine for an at large. Facing High Point, the Highlanders. They are having a hell of a season down there in the Big South Conference. I think they're like 23-4 or something like that, 23-5. They are doing very well right now. They're probably the toughest 14 seed. I wouldn't want to face them as a 3 seed right now. They score about 85 points a game. They love to run and gun. They're kind of an over lock if you're betting overs and unders. So wouldn't want to face High Point if you're a 3 seed there. And they are the projected winner of that Big South Conference down there. And we got Texas Tech out of the Big 12, the Red Raiders, projected at large, facing the 11-seeded South Florida Bulls. The current leader of the American Conference, surprise leader. Everybody thought FAU and Memphis would battle it out for that spot. Many thought FAU would kind of landslide that conference, but no, South Florida right now winning it. And maybe a slight chance in that large if they don't win the conference tournament. We got Utah State next. The Aggies out of the Mountain West, another Mountain West representative. That large bid here, kind of on the bubble, but I think they're safe as a 7 seed here. And they'll be facing the Virginia Cavaliers as a 10 seed. Very odd to see Virginia as a 10 seed here. In years past, they're usually like a top 4 seed. But now this year they've slipped a little bit to the 10 spot, kind of on the bubble. I think they'll get in. I think really 11 might be their floor, but I could see them sneaking all the way up to 7 potentially if they go on a run these next 2 weeks before the tournament comes out, the actual bracket. Then we got Morehead State. Don't say anything weird, chat, about Morehead State. They are the projected winner out of the OVC. And they face the Tennessee Volunteers, the 2 seed and projected winner of the SEC. I didn't know Virginia's a basketball school. Oh, they're a big-time basketball school. I think that's their best sport, that and baseball. So there we have it. I got to say, with this bracket right here, Tennessee facing off against Houston, what a defensive clash that could be in the Elite 8. Duke going to have everything from High Point here. That'd be a tough one. Tough one for the Dukies. Florida, New Mexico, that's a scary 8-9 matchup for Houston for the next round. The 8 and 9s are really talented this year. from what I've noticed. This is a very deep year in college basketball. There's not a lot of bad teams. Everybody that makes the tournament this year is going to be good. There's some years where that's not the case. Creighton, sneaky 4. I see them getting past Wisconsin here. McNeese State, though, I'm telling you, they are going to give everybody all they can in their first round matchup with Will Wade coaching them now. They only have 2 losses on the year, Chad. McNeese State is really good. I think 2 losses makes them the best record in college basketball right now. So pay attention to McNeese State there, because they're probably not going to get even a scare in their conference tournament. They'll probably landslide victory their way into the tournament here. And I don't really see any other. But, I mean, I guess these 2 potentially upsets. Creighton's really good, though. If McNeese State was playing any other 4 seed, I'd say they probably would have a good chance of winning. But I think Richmond could absolutely beat Wisconsin. I don't really see any other upsets until the second round. I can see Texas Tech beating Duke the next round here. But yeah, there we go. Let's get into the final region, the West region. 4th and final 1 seed, the Arizona Wildcats, projected winner of the Pac-12. It's a very close race right now. Oregon right behind them. Washington State tied with them. Even though Washington State just beat them, but then they lost to Arizona State. So they're tied in the win column, but Washington State has 1 more loss right now. And then they face Grambling out of the SWAC, the projected winner of that conference. And then we got Boise State at large bid out of the Mountain West, another Mountain West representative. Facing Oklahoma, the Sooners out of the Big 12. Final year, Oklahoma's in the Big 12. They move the SEC next year. Boise State, the Broncos out of the Mountain West there. They are on the bubble, so you might want to start winning a few games. Maybe 2 more wins might secure you in there. I think they're safe right now, though. Same with Oklahoma. They're sort of on the bubble, but I think they're going to be safe. Let's say go like 0-3, 0-4 these next 2 weeks. Then we got Kentucky, the Wildcats out of the SEC. At large bid. I think they're 3rd or 4th in conference right now. Then we got the Samford Bulldogs out of the Southern Conference. And they are a feisty 12 seed. Whoever wins the Southern Conference is going to be good, whether it be Chattanooga, Greensboro, or Samford. But Samford right now, projected winner. And they have themselves a nice record. Only 4 losses on the year. And then we got Illinois, the Fighting Illini out of the Big 10 at large spot. Facing 13 seed UC Irvine, the Anteaters out of the Big West, projected winner of the Big West Conference. The Anteaters, historically tough in the tournament. They've pulled off a few upsets. Believe they beat Kansas State 1 year. I believe they beat somebody at Louisville. Was it Louisville 1 year? I think they beat in the first round. They're always a tough out. Then we got San Diego State, the Aztecs, moved up to a 3 seed. If they keep winning, I don't think they can get up to a 2 seed, but I think they can become a high 3 seed. They could, if they lose, they could fall down to a 5, maybe a 6. But I got them a 3 right now. The Aztecs out of the Mountain West, projected to get second, either first or second place in that league. It's a battle right now in the standings, but they're going to get in regardless. And that's a typo. It's supposed to be Louisiana Tech, not Louisiana Teach. The Bulldogs out of the Conference USA, the projected champion there. Then we got Grand Canyon, the Antelopes, the 11 seed out of the WAC. They could get in that large spot if they don't win the tournament. They would probably have to win out and then lose in their championship game, but in a close one, by less than 10 points. Because they only have 3 losses on the year. They have a very good record, They also have a win over San Diego State. And that's good enough for them being undefeated in Quad 1 games. So they're pretty good. It's a great team down there. They got great home atmosphere down there in Phoenix. So don't be surprised if they lose their conference tournament championship. They might squeeze in as an at-large, but I think they still would want to win their league. Facing St. Mary's out of the WCC, the projected champion of the WCC, but they'll get in regardless. The Gales out of the Bay Area there, Moraga, California. Moving on, we got Washington State. The Cougars just fresh off of a huge upset at Arizona. And then they lost to ASU. But before that, they'd won 7 straight. So they are doing really well. Kyle Smith's got them rolling right now. They could find themselves a higher seed or a lower seed. Just depends on what they do these next 2 weeks. And they are in the Pac-12. They could win the conference. They're, as I said earlier, Arizona is a half game up right now. But one of those two could win that league. And then they'll face Nebraska, the Cornhuskers. They haven't been in the dance in a while. Out of the Big Ten and at large, but kind of on the bubble. But I think they're fine. You know, they could work themselves up to an 8 or 9 seed, or they could work themselves out of the tournament. It's in their hands. Then we got Eastern Washington, the 15th seed out of the Big Sky, facing number 2 Kansas, the Jayhawks out of the Big 12. The mighty Big 12 has 8 teams in my bracket here right now, tying the SEC with 8, 7 or 8, have to count it up. And Mountain West behind them with 6, as well as the Big Ten. So there it is. Jayhawks at large, Eastern Washington projected winner of the Big Sky. We got ourselves a bracket, y'all. What do you think on the West region? I think Arizona, Kansas would be a fun matchup. But, you know, chalk never happens in March Madness. That's why they call it Madness. Sanford, Kentucky, over-under would be 170. That would be an absolute track meet. Sanford's got a chore that could go toe-to-toe with Kentucky's bigs. And they play at such a lightning speed. And so is Kentucky. So that would be a fun matchup there. It could be an upset special there. Yeah, and UC Irvine over Illinois, that could be an upset as well. Grand Canyon over St. Mary's. A lot of upsets in this region right here. Nebraska, Washington State, you know, Nebraska doesn't play well on the road, but I still think Washington State's better there. What does at-large mean? That means that you didn't win your conference tournament. So there's 32 auto bids that get into the 68-team bracket because there's 32 conferences. Next year there'll be 31. And then the other filling out that 68, you got your 32 at-large, and you got 32 conference champions, 36 at-large bids. That means that you had a great season, but you didn't win your conference, so you get in as kind of a wild card. So yeah, that's what that means. You had a great year, but you didn't win your conference, so we'll put you in. And they do 36 of those, 32 champs. So yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of the smaller schools, the mid-majors, they almost have to rely on winning their conference. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Unless they schedule a really tough non-conference schedule and they win a lot of games, then they have good opportunity to get in. Like St. Mary's right here. If they don't win their conference tournament, they're fine. Even though they're in a small conference, they schedule a tough schedule. They won a lot of games, so they get in at large there. So yeah, there we go. I don't know. I mean, this region looks like it just could be a mess. Like, get a lot of upsets here, but I think Arizona, even though they had a bad March Madness last year, I think this is a different team. They're pretty darn good. I think they have a pretty smooth ride to the Elite Eight here. Kansas isn't very deep, but I mean, Washington State could probably push them here. You know, it could be an upset there in the second round, but I think San Diego State, they were just in the finals last year, you know, the runners-up last year, so they got that experience going for them. They could potentially go on another run. Interesting region here. Obviously, this is going to change a little bit in these next 2 weeks. First, a lot of schools this week right now is their last league play, their last games of league play. So they only got 2 games left in the league. Then it's tournament time. And then there's some leagues where they have 3 or 4 games left in the league. So we're getting down. We're getting close. Mid-March, the final brackets reveal. This is our first reveal here on Twitch as Twitch's primary bracketologist. So, how did we get here, you ask? Well, we got here like this. My spreadsheet, it's got all the stats for you. And here is how they rank up against each other. Purdue, the number 1 overall seed that I ranked everybody from 1 to 68. And how I do that, same way the selection committee would do it. You know, your net ranking, very important for sorting. Your quad 1 games, your quad 2, your quad 3, quad 4, your strengths of schedule, and then your non-conference strength schedule. There are other things that go into it too, like Ken Palm rating, team sheets. They go into heavy detail, but I'm showing you some of the more important stats here that they use as criteria to pick their teams and put them on the bracket. So anybody in bold means they're in first place in their conference right now, so I gave them the auto bid. Everybody that's not in bold, like Kansas, Marquette, and so on, they are projected at-large bids. They had a good season, didn't win their conference, at least right now, as things stand right now. Net ranking, you typically want to be in the top 60, top 70 to have a chance in that large. The higher, the better. Meaning closer to 1, the better. You know, if you're higher number than like 71, 72, 73, you're getting kind of into dangerous territory there. Same goes with strength schedule. You want to be closer to 1. That is good. Closer to 362 is bad. So there you go. There's your 1 seeds, your 2 seeds. So Kansas being the top 2 seed, Tennessee right behind them. The margin is pretty slim between Arizona through Marquette. Any of these could end up being a 1 seed. I'd say these 3 have separated themselves. UConn, Purdue, Houston, all very close. They could all finish as the number 1 overall seed, but right now it's Purdue. 3 seeds are quite a step behind the 2 seeds. As you can tell, I mean, you start getting your net rankings above 8. You know, you got 18 here at San Diego State. And then San Diego State's got a lot of quad 1 wins. They're 5 and 7. Got great strength schedules here. Iowa State's got awful non-conference strength schedule, so that could be a discussion point come seeding time on Selection Sunday. But their resume is flawless after that. I mean, 8 net ranking, 6 and 4 quad 1, 4 and 2 against quad 2, undefeated against bad teams. So it looks pretty good. San Diego State's kind of got an interesting resume here. They're undefeated against quad 2, 3, and 4. Their only losses are in quad 1. That's pretty good. There's not many schools that can say that. UConn is another one, and Purdue, and Houston. And then you got San Diego State. I think those are the only 4. There might be one more that doesn't have any losses in quad 2, 3, or 4. 4 seeds, you got Baylor as the highest 4 seed right now. Illinois is the bottom. What that means is Baylor is closest to becoming a 3 seed. Illinois is closest to becoming a 5. And there you go. I'm just going to go slow in case people on YouTube want to study and see where their school lands. You know, I do ship this over to YouTube after it's live on Twitch. There might be some fans out there that want to see what their records are with their school. All right, moving on. 5 seeds, you got Wisconsin, Clemson, Dayton, and Kentucky. Kentucky closest to being a 6. I think that will change. I think they will firmly be a 5, maybe creep up to a 4 line. Whereas Wisconsin and Clemson are trending downward. So is Dayton. Dayton was a 4, now they're a 5. Now here's where it starts getting interesting. Probably the hardest thing to do as a bracketologist is to seed 6 through 10. Well, really 6 through 11. Because there's a lot of variance. You start to get weird resumes, teams that might have atrocious conference, non-conference schedules, like Texas Tech here, 306. That's really bad. But they don't have any bad losses, and they have pretty good record against the top opponents, and a 35 net. And then you get teams like St. Mary's who have an outstanding net, 15. Probably should be like 3 seed with that, 3 or 4 seed, But they didn't have a great overall strength schedule, and they didn't play a ton of quad 1, quad 2 games. You played 11 quad 4 teams. So you start to get some variance here in the 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s, 10s, and 11s. But this is what I came up with. Here's your 7 seeds: Utah State, TCU, Washington State, BYU. All these teams have no bad losses, as you can see, but some pretty bad non-conference schedules here. 5-3 Washington State against quad 1. That looks pretty good right now. They only got 1 bad loss here, 4-1 against quad 3. 36 net. I mean, really, Washington State, if you look at this, they should be higher than the 7 seed. And I think they will end up creeping up to maybe the 6 or 5 line. We'll see how it goes if they keep winning. Let's go down to the 8 seeds here. Florida, Michigan State, FAU, Oklahoma. FAU kind of an anomaly here because they're a smaller school against these 3. They're only 1-1 against quad 1, but that 1 was on a neutral site against Arizona, so that's their best win of the year. It looks pretty good. 2 weird bad losses here for FAU, but they're 6-4 against quad 2, so I think they'll be fine. Some people think they're in trouble right now missing the tournament. I don't think so. I mean, if you combine this 7-5 against quality opponents, that's pretty good. And then 14-2 against teams that you should beat. So I think they'll be fine. Boise State, Nevada, Mississippi State, New Mexico. Very Mountain West dominant there. Mountain West was a great conference all year long. Kind of one of the stories this year. As you can see, Boise State 5-5 against quad 1. And then 5-4 with Nevada, 4-3 New Mexico. How do you think they got all those quad 1 games? They're road conference games because the Mountain West was so good this year. You got 6 teams in there that if you had a road game in that conference, sometimes even UNLV, no, I think UNLV is considered quad 2. But you had 6 teams in there, all of them on the road, and they're a quad 1 game. So there you go. Every time you play San Diego State at home, that's also quad 1. Same with Boise State and New Mexico because they're in the top 50. So yeah. Or top 30. Top 30 is quad 1. Quad 1 for neutral site would be top 50. Let's move on down to the 10 seeds here. Then we'll get into the bubble. Northwestern, Virginia, Nebraska, Seton Hall. Don't have a lot of wiggle room here. These teams could see themselves out, but they're fine right now. A lot of good quad 1 records there. Not too bad. In past years, the 10 seeds have really bad quad 1 records typically, but this year it's actually pretty strong. There's been a lot of upsets this year, so that's part of the reason for why you see some pretty strong 10 seeds here. And now let's get into the bubble. Got a special song for getting into the bubble. There we go. Oh, yes. The group you don't want to be in come late February and March. It's the infamous bubble. Are you going to get in? Are you going to be left out? You have high anxiety come Selection Sunday. You're probably watching with a pizza party, hoping you're going to get in. or you're going to be really emotional not seeing your name called, and you're going to go to the NIT, which is not as good of a tournament, but still a good tournament. Well, here we are, the bubble. Indiana State, Grand Canyon, South Florida, all projected to win their conferences right now, but if they don't, they're going to be in the bubble. As you can see, 1-3 against Quad 1. Not going to really get the job done, but they do have that one Quad 1 win, as is Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, 3-2 against Quad 1 and 2. That's not bad. That one bad loss here might do them in. But having a great record with only 4 losses, that's pretty good. Indiana State only having 5 losses. They might finish the year like 28-5 or something. They'll be fine. They'll be fine, I think. But they are on the bubble. They got a pretty good record against Quad 1, Quad 2, 5-4. I think they'll be okay. South Florida, I don't think they will be okay if they don't win their tournament. I think they need maybe one more statement win to make their resume look a little better. Gonzaga, Wake Forest on the bubble here. Both of them only one Quad 1 win. Wake Forest did just pick up that Duke win, though, on the road with the court storming fiasco. But they are 5-5 against Quad 2, and Gonzaga doing all right, too, with 2-1. Gonzaga's signature win at Kentucky, so they're kind of hoping for that. If they do win at St. Mary's, that'll be the signature win that they probably need to secure their spot in the tournament. That would give them another Quad 1 win, and they need it. Drake, Colorado, they also have hair on their chins right now. Not a lot of bracketologists have Drake in the field right now, but I don't think they're looking at the numbers correctly. Drake has a net of 46. That's top 50, y'all. And they're 2-1 against the Quad 1 teams, 3-3 against Quad 2, and they don't have any bad Quad 4 losses. They're in the Missouri Valley Conference, which is probably one of the best 2 or 3 mid-major conferences. So I do think Drake is squarely on the bubble here, and on the bright side of it right now. If they were to beat Bradley or Indiana State one more time, either in their tournament, against Indiana State, that would be a Quad 1 win. Against Bradley, I believe a Quad 2. That might leapfrog them squarely into the field. Let's go to the teams that did not make the bracket tonight. Texas, the first team left out, 69th rank at the moment. A lot of Quad 1 wins here at 4-7 and a good 40 net ranking. So what's the problem? Problem is non-conference record is 221, and the other problem is they have a losing conference record. They have a winning overall conference record, but it's not great. It's like 17-11. But they have a losing conference record, and that is not a good look to the committee. They don't necessarily look at conference records as a major criteria breaker, but they can see it. I really wish the committee would come up with a new rule and just say, hey, if you're not above 500, you can't make a tournament. I wish they would do that. Then we got Providence, squarely on the bubble out of the Big East here, 5-6 against Quad 1. That's not too shabby at all. I really think that, but it's the net ranking being 55, kind of low, and the bad non-conference record. They played a lot of Quad 4 games as well. Oregon, Ole Miss, also part of my the first 4 out of the tournament. Oregon really needs one more statement win. If they do play at Arizona coming up here, if they win that one, that'll be another Quad 1 win. That'll be a top 5 win. That could really benefit the Ducks. But really, I think they need to go on a run in the Pac-12 tournament as well. If they don't win that Arizona game, they certainly have to beat Arizona State and really go 3-1 in their last games in Pac-12 play before maybe reaching at least the semifinals of the Pac-12 tournament, if not the finals, and then maybe that will be good enough to get them in. The next 4 out. James Madison had a hell of a year until they lost to App State. They were undefeated until then. And then losing to Southern Miss was not a good look either. They have a whopping 19 games against Quad 4, but they won them all, which is good. They just didn't have a great strength schedule, and that's going to end up being the deciding factor that might keep them out. So they probably need to win the conference tournament, which is a shame because they're a very good team. Net ranking of 50. I think that's a little low, but numbers never lie. They got that 1 win at Michigan State is their resume builder. They're the Ash Ketchum. Utah, another Pac-12 team on the bubble here. Great strength schedule. 20. That's great. No bad losses here. They're just kind of middling. Their record's not great. They're like 16-12. They need to improve that record. They need to get some more wins. Texas A&M's kind of similar boat. 15-12. Great strength schedule at 14. Some bracketologists like them in the field right now. I just can't do it, man. 15-12 with a net rank of 58. Not good enough. And then you got 4 quad 3 losses. That's a lot. It's a lot of quad 3 losses there. I can't do it. Butler score on the bubble as part of the next 4 out. They just simply played a tough schedule. They have 16 wins right now, and 11 of their losses, they only have 12 losses. 11 of them were in Quad 1. Almost all their games are Quad 1, being in the Big East, and they played a very good non-conference schedule. 9th overall strength schedule here. 16 net, that's kind of prime bubble at large area there. They just need a couple more wins. Maybe one more statement win and a couple more like mediocre wins. They might be enough for them to be on the right side of the bubble here. And just for communication and conversation pieces here, these are the next teams out. Teams that are, quite a ways off the bubble right now, but still in consideration. They'll probably be in consideration come Selection Sunday. But all of these teams right here in this list, they need to win out, basically, at this point. They do not have anything to... They can't afford a loss right now. They can't. They have to win out if you're down here, because you're not even in the bubble area up top there. You got Pittsburgh, Villanova, Cincinnati, Kansas State, Memphis, Loyola Chicago, St. John's, which just beat Creighton yesterday. That was a huge win for them. Boosted their resume a ton there. San Francisco, Syracuse, NC State, Iowa, UNC Wilmington with their statement win over Kentucky. Then UNLV and SMU. Those are all the teams that cannot afford any more losses here. I actually think that this is SMU's. So these two messed up. I messed that up. This needs to be down here. This is UNLV. This is UNC Wilmington's record, and this is UNLV. Just keep that in mind. My bad on that typo. But yeah, there we have it, chat. I think that concludes our first Bracketology episode of the year. So it's going to be exciting. We'll see what happens these next couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm going to head out of here. Appreciate y'all stopping by, and hopefully y'all enjoy the game.